Seguimos en CARICAM 2016 haciendo la cobertura del Congreso. Nos visita Scott de la empresa Viavi, con quien vamos a estar hablando sobre su presentación en el Congreso que ha hecho esta mañana, para que nos explique exactamente qué le está intentando comunicar a los operadores de Centroamérica y el Caribe y ver si se desvía de los retos que están intentando implementar otros operadores en Latinoamérica. Vamos a estar haciendo la entrevista en inglés porque Scott es norteamericano, así que vamos a cambiar ese idioma para poder hacer la entrevista. Scott, welcome to telesemana.com.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So the first question is obvious. Tell us a brief summary of what you tried to communicate during your presentation this morning and why you chose the topic that you chose for this presentation.
So there's a lot of market forces that are playing that are affecting a lot of our service providers that are in the Caribbean, Central America, and also South America. Economic pressure, intense competition, extreme data growth, new competitors coming into the marketplace. With in June, WhatsApp had declared a new platform availability for offering services to enterprise customers, and these are some of the customers that are traditional customers of the service providers. And at the time of different types of technologies offering the hope of additional revenues for on-demand customized services. And there are many different ways for our service providers to lose money, waste money, and part of the reason we chose the subject of, is it revenue assurance, is it service assurance, it's business assurance, is to talk about the right kind of visibility that's needed to be able to make the proper decisions to positively affect the revenue and margins of our operators, and not have them waste money.
When you talk about visibility, are you referring to the visibility of what the user is doing with the services, so you are able to react to that?
Yes.
Okay.
So end-to-end, not only what the subscriber is doing, but what type of device are they in?
Okay.
Where are they located? Is the cell site they're on, is it that issue, or is it a backhaul? Is it related to the application itself, somewhere in the core, or somewhere completely unrelated to the service provider on out to the service? So, and having that visibility real time to be able to make good decisions to optimize the service provider's profitability.
Are you using big data or analytics at all to analyze also and to prevent future problems when you see something on the network going on that it's not right?
So part of what Viavi has done is create the analytics enablement solutions, so the feeds that can feed a higher layer analytics platform. But with that, also have solution that provides correlated views from device, cell site, backhaul, core, to give a correlated view to be able to have, like, for example, network operations and engineering, make quick decisions on what's affecting issues. For marketing organizations to understand the services that we're offering, what's the uptake, and what's the profitability of those type of solutions. For additional types of big data use cases, we can feed that to an open, or we feed that in an open type of feed that can be ingested by any kind of third party, whether it's business intelligence, a big data analytics platform, and or other types of homegrown solutions that service providers may have in their marketing organizations. So to the extent of feeding analytics platforms, it's pre-correlated subscriber visibility that's end-to-end. And there's a whole lot more that you can do with that outside of the realm of just the service provider's network.
Okay. Now, some people are saying that one of the issues operators are facing is the fact that the RAN team and the backhaul team and the core team are working in an isolated environments, that they don't talk to each other, essentially. And now you mentioned that chain within the quality of experience, which is going from the RAN, backhaul, and core. Are you seeing that in order to make those three groups work together and make the quality of experience work, they will have to break those boundaries? And if so, how?
So, in a lot of service providers, it's cultural. Back when the service was the network, it was primarily voice. You had your voice core folks, you had RAN, and you had other types of organizations that worked independently. with the types of things that we're doing now and the proliferation of devices and machines and the machines that we use and how they use the network, to have visibility that can be understood by anybody, then stops the finger pointing, gets us to a faster real-time time to resolution. So a good example is a drive path, okay, which is traditionally a RAN type of view, but where certain RAN parameters are checked off as okay, but then shows a core view of subscribers and their application performance that's poor. So a RAN person could say, doesn't look like my issue, let me pull in to get them to work together a little bit more, but with the overall goal of lowering the back and forth and the time to resolution. Because as our demographic changes to what we like to call digital natives, the tolerance for those types of issues, the competition is too high to take too much time to be able to resolve those issues.
Okay. All right, so you mentioned that your presentation here at CARICOM is related to some of the pressures that the operators are having here, competition, economic issues, and so on. But also we know that the operators in the Caribbean are a bit behind in terms of their digital transformation. Did you adapt your presentation for this event, or this is something that it applies to any operator, even if it's in the Caribbean?
So it can apply. A great example was one of the operators, Digicel, that had talked about in about 12 to 14 months' time how quickly they were able to deploy a network, and made mention that what they've deployed is all virtual. Okay, so some of these technologies are being taken advantage of now with the region, even as they continue to roll out 4G types of services and figure out how to transform their 3G network, for example. So the opportunities are there, and especially in the Caribbean where you have a lot of roamers that are coming from networks that have taken advantage of these technologies. There's pressure for those subscribers in the region the operators in the region to be able to take advantage of those technologies where it makes sense. And certainly a good one is in the realm of virtualization. It readies a network for 5G, but then also at the same time helps to reduce capital expenditures for new services.
Okay, I have to ask you this because I'm asking everyone. How do you deal with the fact that we have so many markets which are so small to be able to find a business case for Viavi to support these organizations that even some companies don't even bother because of the fact that it takes a lot of time and effort to sustain or provide support to little markets that are dispersed, and actually it's even very expensive to fly to some of them because flight tickets are not cheap to go to the Caribbean.
Right. So one of the things that virtualization helps to implement is a lower cost savings and a remote supportability that with the proper visibility is able to be managed with minimizing travel. Now, quite frankly, in the region we have a lot of hurricanes and earthquakes, natural disasters, and whatnot. That's something physically going wrong that as far as the access, you still have to go to and address. But your typical quality of service issues where, for example, you might have needed to do a drive test in the past. You don't necessarily need to do the drive test. You can make a change and then get the visibility out of the RAN as far as how it performs from a services perspective and where subscribers are without having to do a drive test.
So you're talking about having some of the mechanisms to test the network to be on the cloud?
Correct.
That's what we're talking about.
And that is, one of the positions that Viavi is taken is when we move towards virtualization, we believe you still need to be able to, when you spin up a virtual service, speaking more along the lines of network functions virtualization, you should be able to test the service chain of that when you spin it up to make sure it's going to be okay. And then once it's there, you should monitor it, as the Digicel CTO had mentioned, John Quinn. He had mentioned you need to perfect the monitoring of your network, and that especially applies with virtualization. Okay. So
the fact that the operators in the Caribbean have, I'm not there to say that they don't have the right infrastructure to connect, let's say, to Miami,
Right.
Are they ready to embrace virtualization given the connection types they have with wherever the cloud might be?
Well, I think some of this comes from an all or nothing approach, and certainly it's not an all or nothing. Where it makes sense,
Cloud
it's a less expensive way to add the service. As far as like physical connectivity, and roaming agreements and whatnot. With undersea fiber and whatnot, that's static.
Okay.
And that's a whole nother discussion. But where it makes sense to be able to offer some new services and dynamically offer those services and lower the capital expenditures, it makes sense. And certainly in one of the presentations that was here with Digicel, they've made it happen as an example. And one of the things, whether or not it will actually happen is one thing, but the pressure is certainly there. In one of Telesemana's reports this summer, it indicated in a survey of operators, and this was more of all of the Latin American region, with Central America, Caribbean, and South America, that 81% of the operators would consider network functions virtualization in the next year.
Okay.
So there's opportunities there for sure, where it makes sense.
Excellent. All right, Scott. So I'm going to leave you here because we're running out of time. But and actually there is a coffee break, I think, here behind us.
Yes.
So thank you so much for visiting us, and hope to see you soon in another interview in the future and see what's happening here.
Thanks much for
in
having
the
me.
Caribbean. Pleasure.